Hello, franchise enthusiasts, and welcome back to another episode of the Franchise Happy Hour. I'm your host, Dylan DeGroat, and today we've got a special guest with us, the incredible Julie Goldberg, president of Evergreen Franchise Advisors. Julie is not just a certified advanced franchise consultant, but also a dedicated member of FranServe. She's on a mission to transform lives one franchise at a time. Starting a franchise can be intimidating, but fear not. Julie is here to guide us through all the ins and outs of the franchising world. Her expertise doesn't stop at business, it extends to changing lives. Julie understands the hurdles, the fears, and the dreams of aspiring business owners. She believes that the right guidance and determination, there's no reason to let that fear hold you back. Julie's commitment is unparalleled. She often puts her clients' needs above her own because for her, the real success lies in pairing aspiring business owners with the franchise of their dreams. Today, we'll dive into Julie's journey, her passion for helping others succeed, and unreveal the secrets of the franchising success. So grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and join us for a fantastic conversation. Julie, welcome to the Franchise Happy Hour.
Dylan, thank you so much for that kind introduction. And thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to join you and be a part of this.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. I know when I saw you down at the FranServe, I can't think right now. When I saw you down at the FranServe convention, there it is. I was thinking I was just starting up the podcast there. I wasn't exactly ready to have anybody on, but I've been thinking about you and I'm really excited to have you on here. So let's dive right in to the Franchise Happy Hour. All right, Julie. So I do know a little bit of your backstory, but I'd love for the listeners to hear your backstory about, hey, how did you get into franchising?
Oh, thanks. This is one of my favorite stories. I'm a mom, first and foremost, right? I'm a mom. And so I walked away from my corporate career as a corporate controller to stay home and raise my two girls. I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. Fast forward end of 2012, my youngest comes home from school one day. And Dylan, if you look up Crazy Mom, like the one who volunteered for everything, sat on boards of directors, I even coached flag football, and I don't know anything about how to play football. That was me. And my sweet kid looks at me with her big baby blue eyes and big old dimples and is like, Mom, I gave a speech about you today. I said, cool. What'd you say, sweetie? And she said, I told the whole class I'm going to grow up and be just like you. Do nothing. After I took that deep breath, looked at her, tears in my eyes, I knew that moment I was going back to work. And thanks to my husband, John, sweet guy, said, honey, just buy a business. Don't go back to work. Let's make money for ourselves instead of somebody else. And that really is what started my journey. Started working with franchise consultants who they were franchise consultants, weren't the best in the business. And I thought, gosh, I can do exactly what they do, but I could probably do it better as long as I take care of people, am honest with people. If I say I'm going to call you, I'm going to call them. If I say I'm going to send you an email, I'm going to send that email. Here I am. It'll be 11 years next month, doing what I love, helping people.
I love it. 11 years. So congratulations on that. That's a great achievement. It's a grind. Franchise consulting is absolutely a grind. And one thing that I'm sure people are interested, I know, again, the backstory of Evergreen, but I'd love for you to tell the listeners about that backstory. How did you get the name? Because I think it's very unique.
Yeah. So thanks to my other child, my daughter, and I've rebranded over time. And so Evergreen came about. My oldest daughter went to school or still is going to school at Southern Utah University. And we had gone to visit her, and we were in Zion National Park having a picnic, looking up at all the trees. And I was trying to come up with the company name. We had been talking about it, and she looked up at the tree and she said, Mom, Evergreen, that's what you should call yourself. They're tall, they're strong, they're prickly. Don't think I'm going to say the rest of what she said. And from there, Evergreen Franchise Advisors was born. So I love, like, as you can see, right, my family has played a huge part in my journey. So my youngest kid got me motivated, my husband's super supportive, and then my oldest child naming my business. So that's my story.
I love it. I think, unique names really stick. And, the fact that we're Joshua Tree experts, you're Evergreen, it kind of works well together. So I have always thought it was such a unique one. And I think it's cool that, you have that support in the background. You have the support of your husband, your two kids. I think that's really important. So really cool. So congratulations on that. Um, so, and I'm sure, you've helped probably countless lives. You've helped change those lives. You've helped get people into business ownership. But, one thing that we like to talk about here on the Franchise Happy Hour is those memorable stories. Is there anybody that throughout your journey, that just like when you think about success and somebody you've helped, is there somebody that sticks out to you? And even when you're having a bad day, you always go back to them and you're like, I can do this. I'm gonna get through this, and it's all because I know that this is possible.
Oh, there's so many stories like that. But I think my favorite story, it was a gentleman, it was probably one of the first people I ever spoke with. And we started, and I talking to him, I sort of had an idea of what direction he needed to go. And I shared businesses with him and we explored a few. And then he came back and said, "Can you give me more?" And so I gave him more. And "Can you give me more?" And I gave him more. And this was a 2.5 year journey. So that is not normal. Let me be really honest about that. It's not normal. And his wife was there through the whole journey, sitting in the background. And every business we looked at, he would go, "But it doesn't do what the first business I ever showed him did." And one day his wife completely lost it on a call, like completely started screaming at him, like, "Just buy that business already. I'm tired of doing this." And he said, "Okay." And we hung up the phone. And an hour later, I got a call from the franchisor that was like, "I don't know what you said to him, but he asked for the agreement. I sent it to him. It's already been signed. He's wiring the money." And he moved forward. And he actually he was like rookie of the year. I mean, he was just amazing. He was an amazing guy. The wife called me and she said, "Julie, I should have yelled at him like 2 years ago." But the reality was that was his journey. He needed to go through all of those steps. And it was kind of fun.
Mhm.
Looking back, it was a grind too. I mean, that was a long grind, but it was well worth it.
Absolutely. Love that. Now, did he come back to the original one that you showed him? Is that
Did
what he did? What is your process? How do you, when a franchisee is coming in, how are you looking at pairing them? What are some of the, styles that you use or like techniques that you use to pair them with a franchise?
Oh, yeah. So that's a great question. For me, it's really about conversations. I don't think there's the magic bullet for matching people. It's getting to know them, hearing what's important to them, learning about, what did they do last weekend, or, what do they do with their friends or their family, and their value system, and why they want a business. Like, not just what their why is, but really what is your why? Like, people buy businesses to make money, right? We all know that's why we buy a business. But what else is it? Do you want to help people? Do you want to change the world? Do you want to, I don't even know. Everyone wants to do something different. So it's through a series of conversations, and it's not a process you can rush. You really have to get to know people. First question people are like, "What business should I buy? What's the best one?" Well, what's best for me and what's best for you, Dylan, and what was best for Josh, they're all different based on who we are. So for me, it's getting to know them. And usually over the course of 2, 3 conversations, they will say something that will kind of resonate with me, like, "Oh, I remember when I talked to that brand or I visited that brand, they said that this is the right fit for that person." And that's when, like, the magic happens, when you can start sharing all that cool stuff and all the details and why it's a good fit for them. So that's kind of really, I think my process change. There's a general process, but it changes depending on who the client is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just like every, business out there, every client is a little bit different. Their needs are different, but you're kind of pairing them with what, your conversations that you're having with them, what you're hearing, utilizing your expertise on the back end of knowing, this is a brand that matches what you're saying rather than what you might be looking for. Because I think a lot of people, they get into franchising. What do they think? They think food. Everybody does, right? So, I think it's good that you have the ability to sit back with your expertise and actually say, here's what you're looking for, but here's what I see and here's what I hear you actually saying. That's important to you. So I think that that's a great way for you to go about it. So, I like to talk about successes are great, but I also think that it's important to talk about some challenges that we've had. So, on the flip side of success, what are some challenges that you've encountered as your 11 years going through the franchise consulting role?
Oh, those are too many to count. So let's think. I think really the biggest challenge is the education piece. Because people, like you talked about, right? People always think franchising is food, or they want a business. Oftentimes I'll hear, oh, I can't wait to be a business owner so I can golf Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Or I can't wait to be able to travel and not have to worry and have money coming in. And so I think for me, the challenge is overcoming people's kind of set fallacies about what business ownership is. And I think, the next kind of piece to that is the heartbreaking stories of the people you can tell they want to be business owners. They have the skill set, they have the passion, they have the desire, but they don't have the capital. And I think that's probably the hardest challenge for me, because I wish I had billions of dollars and could just help put people in business, but I don't, and haven't found angel investors yet. And if you're out there, come find me, because I will put your angel investing to good use. But I think that the money piece is hard. It's a huge challenge when someone can't get funded.
It is. It is. It's absolutely always a challenge, as a franchisor, as a franchise consultant. I'm sure, you get people in your process that want that and they're just not ready for it. They're not financially ready for it. And it is a financial commitment. It's a 10-year marriage with a company at the end of the day. And there is a portion that, you have to come in with some expected capital. So it's not like a freebie and you're just opening up a business. There is some money involved, but reaping those benefits, reaping those rewards, that's what makes franchising so special is, in my opinion, at least, the ability to have that like business in a box. You don't have to figure out those things for yourself. I think that is probably what sets franchising apart from like just going out and doing it yourself, obviously.
Oh, 100%. And that's another challenge, right? People do say, why should I buy a franchise? Why should I pay a franchise fee? And it's exactly what you talked about, right? We hand you that business in a box, the website, the marketing, the call center, the training, the equipment, the discounts on bulk buying, and all those pieces. And that's another big challenge to overcome, because people don't understand the value sometimes. And then when they do, that light bulb goes off and you're like, yes, you get it now.
They see the value. There is value in it for sure. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about what are some qualities that you look for in somebody that you think is going to be a successful franchisee?
So for me, the biggest piece of the pie is passion and drive and determination, because franchises can teach you how to do whatever the widget is, or they can teach you how to hire or what to look for, in a customer, and how to sell and all those pieces. You've got to have that drive and that passion and a people sense. You have to be able to have a conversation, right? Sometimes I'll get on the call with a client and it's me pulling teeth, and in my heart I'm like, oh, this is going to be tough for you to be a franchise owner, because how are you going to go to a networking event, and how are you going to go to the grocery store wearing your logoed shirt and tell people what you do for your business? So that's such a big piece of it. You have to have people. That's a hard skill. You can't teach people that. And so for me, that's what drives success. Now we can add on other things, right? Like if you've had managed a team, or have had P&L responsibility and understand budgeting and KPIs and numbers and pro formas and all those different pieces. But even some of that, you all can teach them that. You can help them through that. You have a coach that's going to coach them through a lot of that. So I think passion, drive, determination, grit, all those, that's what I look for in my candidates.
I like that. That's exactly what a franchisor should be looking for as well. So at least you're on the front end, actually out there, talking to people looking for that as well, and pairing them with those franchises for sure. Um, if in your experience, I know we talked a little bit about this, but are there any more of those misconceptions that you kind of want to talk about? I love talking about these in franchising. I know food is one of them, and we kind of touched on, uh, buying and just putting money in. But what are some of the misconceptions that you often hear of, on your side?
Oh gosh. So there's so many of them. If you build it, they will come, right? That is, even if you're retail, that is not true. People don't just come in and buy goods from you. So I think that's a big misconception. I think the
Mhm.
other misconceptions, oh, the franchisor is going to provide clients for me. I'm going to walk in with a built-in book of business. So when you have to explain to someone, well, no, we have to do marketing and you've got to join a BNI group, or you've got to, go out and sponsor races or the local sports team. Like, you can see people don't realize that there's that much to do in a business. So I also think some misconceptions are, I pay this fee, the item 7 says it's going to be this to this. So that's what it is. But some businesses have longer runways, some businesses have shorter runways, some businesses have higher margins, lower margin. I mean, people think
Mhm.
you buy a business, you're going to be a millionaire tomorrow, and that cash is going to start flowing day one. And for most businesses, that is not true. I wish it was. If it was, it'd be
Mhm.
great, but it's not true.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's admirable that you're also honest about those things, because there are people who think that this is an investment, right? It's just an investment. It's like, if you want to just make money on your money, just go put it in the stock market, go put it in, like things that are trusted and can just happen without you doing anything, right? Franchising is, Josh and I were talking the one day, and we're talking to a candidate, and he said, the candidate was like, well, how much can I make? And Josh said, his simple reply was, how hard do you want to work? And I think that's such an important thing. I learn a lot from him all the time, he's a business owner and everything. But um, I just think it's true. You can't just, there's no magic pill. Franchising isn't a magic pill, but it is a way, right? It is a path towards that success. And I think that's what the most important part is.
Yeah, 100%. You're buying a playbook and you have to execute that playbook. And just
Mm-hmm.
like I tell people, just like in the business world, right? If you have a corporate job, you're always going to have the top people in your department, you'll have the middle people, and then we're going to have the bottom people. And same thing happens in franchising. And you've got to find that franchise that will give you the opportunity to be at the top or in the middle 50%. If you can be in the middle 50, you're probably in a good place in most businesses. And, that's tough for people because we have to look introspectively and figure out as humans, as candidate going through a franchise process, can I really do this? Can I really follow this and execute? Can I see myself going out and doing this business? And sometimes we try to tell ourselves we can, but it's not always true. And so I respect the franchisors who say, hey, this isn't going to work for us. I do believe in that whole award process. I think that's another big misconception. There's a misconception, if I write a check, I can get a franchise. And that was the way it was when I first started in this industry 11 years ago. If you were breathing, you could get a franchise. It's not that way today. And I think that's another huge misconception in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good one to have. Really good one to bring up, because it's not like that. They're just like you said, a franchise is awarded. It's not given. I look at it as a franchisor on this side. I look at it as it's a job interview both ways, almost in a sense. Um, you know, we talked a little bit about your process in the beginning. How about once you're, are you, how do you stay in touch with candidates like as they're going through this process? I'm sure there's lots that, the franchisor is going to provide them lots of information, but what's your involvement as they're going through that process?
Yeah, it depends. I feel like it's the attorney answer. It depends. For most of my candidates, I'm pretty involved. I'm a hand holder. Look, I'm a mom. I'm a nurturer. I'm involved, a micromanager on my side of it because that's this business is me. It's my success. My successes are mine. My failures are mine. I want to make sure my candidates are successful. And so I am constantly checking in with them, sending them information at each step of their journey, right? If they're talking to you, I'm sending them questions. Hey, here's questions you should ask Dylan on your first couple calls. These will be great to get you going. Oh, Dylan sent you the FDD. Great. Let me send you a guide to the FDD because holy smokes, if you never looked at one before, 200 pages and you're like, hell, what am I going to do? What are these 23 items and why are they important? And so I'll kind of walk through that. Then we move into validation. I'm going to send them lists of questions. Hey, ask the franchisees questions and we'll dive into it. Meanwhile, depending on people's schedules, because there's some people that are just like, hey, I'm talking to the franchisor. Can we just communicate via text? Okay, I'll meet you where you are. Some people are like, I want to check in every Friday. So great, we'll schedule a call every Friday, debrief, talk about next steps. When they're getting ready to go to confirmation day, discovery day, award day, y'all call it something different. I'm sending them a guide like, hey, here's some things you're going to, this is what this day is about. Make sure you're prepared and ready. I know the brand loves you. We want them to love you. I want you to love them. I want to make sure this is the right fit for you. And so I am really there as much as I can be. And I think that's really what has driven my success in this industry is that hand holding. Now, I have some clients who are like, thank you for the introduction. I got this from here. And you've got to be respectful of that. And I have to have enough faith in my franchisors that if there's a problem, they're going to reach out and let me know.
Absolutely. Yeah. And seriously, that is some really great involvement. I've had both sides of it. Obviously, I've had, just like you said in the beginning, hey, there's good franchisors, there's bad franchisors, there's good franchise consultants, and there's ones that we don't bring on this podcast. Just kidding. But so I appreciate your involvement. We've worked with a candidate together, and I always think it's important to thoroughly understand the entire picture. Because the candidate could be, telling us one thing, telling you something different. I think it's always good to have everybody communicating on the same page. So everybody understands like, hey, this is what this relationship's going to look like. And here's how we're going to be successful. It's by communicating. So I appreciate you, staying on top of candidates. I think that's a great thing.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you doing what you do and keeping on the backside, right? Not all franchisors keep us up to date. And that's a real struggle in my industry is if I can't know what you're talking about with my candidate, how can I help them best if I don't have feedback? And so I truly appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's nice of you to say. um, so the landscape of the franchising industry, it's constantly evolving. Like you said, 10 years ago is a lot different than it is now. What are some of those ways that, you yourself, you stay updated, the latest trends, and you're able to incorporate that conversation with candidates?
Oh, yeah. So lots and lots and lots of homework. So I am constantly reading articles, reading journals on LinkedIn, reading industry papers that are coming out, talking to franchisors. I mean, having conversation with franchisors, what's happening in your industry, what's going on in your business, how are your franchisees doing? Visiting franchisors, probably my favorite thing that I get to do, because there's nothing better, right? That's going to a franchisor and seeing their operation and meeting their team and going on a job. That's how we stay up to date on trends and what's happening in the world. Also networking with my fellow colleagues, right? I can't be an expert in everything. Well, I'd love to say I'm an expert in all 800 brands I represent. I can't possibly be. And so I align myself with people who are similar to me and who have the same kind of goals and aspirations to help and to constantly learn, reading books. There's so many different ways that going to conferences, all of it, it's all put together. You have to stay up on the trends. You can't stop learning.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I'm sure FranServe, they provide some assets and ways for you to do that as well. Is that correct?
100%. So we have training and mentoring, and there's always programs going on. We have our annual conference. I mean, there is so much learning material out there. Just if I just rely on FranServe, And then going outside of that, there's so much more out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I always think it's important to align yourself. You've essentially aligned yourself with FranServe. And I think that that's really cool. I love FranServe. We've had a great relationship. So, y'all came out and visited us. So I really appreciate that. So you are a certified advanced franchise consultant. Tell us, tell the listeners a little bit more about what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a certification prior to that called Certified Franchise Consultant. So that's really when you're just getting into franchise consulting and you've done a few, you've worked with some clients, you've had some success, you take this exam, you get your certified franchise consultant, and you go through training and all those different pieces. Next step is certified advanced franchise consultant. And so there is a time requirement. Takes about 2 years to really kind of go through the process, but you have to attend conferences, you have to attend those in-person learn and earn events that I'm super lucky to get to host and go to all of them. You have to take some classes, so classes on what advanced financing looks like, how do you help people with resales, what's the best way to really get to know people. So there's lots of different education pieces, and once you've accomplished and kind of check those boxes, and as well you need franchisors referrals and letters of recommendation. So that speaks volumes. Those of us that have it, right, we have great relationships with franchisors, we've had success in our industry. Then you can sit for this exam, you take it. I was super stressed out I wasn't going to pass it. But I did. It's been a long time since I've been in school and had to take 100-question multiple choice true false exam. And here I am. And I think it really just shows those of us that have been in the industry are dedicated to learning and continuing to improve at what we do. That's really what the CAFC is all about.
Yeah, I love that because it shows that you're dedicated to it. It's not just something that you're doing as a side gig. This is your livelihood. You out here, you're trying to assist people and trying to find the better way towards their dreams. And I think that is awesome. And so, if you're a listener out there, talk to the people that have that. You can look on LinkedIn. Everybody that I know of that has, the CFC or the CAFC, that's right on their LinkedIn. Those are your true experts in the franchise industry. And Julie's one of them. So if you're listening and you just want to find out more, go check her out because she knows what she's talking about.
Dylan, you're awesome. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Hey, so, whenever somebody's, if there's a listener out there, let's put it that way, if they're just thinking about getting into franchising for the first time, what would be some advice, just words of wisdom, little nugget maybe that you're saying, hey, this is what you should do if you're considering getting into franchising or business ownership for the first time?
Oh, so my kind of piece of advice is go into this with an open mind. I think as you touched on earlier, right? Most people, when they hear franchise, they think McDonald's and Chick-fil-A, and there's so much more out there. So be open-minded, align yourself with a franchise consultant, or as I like to call myself, matchmaker, who can really get to know who you are and help you find that right thing. I would say, if I had to venture to guess, 85 to 90% of the people that I work with and have helped have come to me saying, I want XYZ franchise, and they end up somewhere completely different. So really be open-minded, treat this like the discovery process like a job, right? You have to be disciplined. You have to devote time to it. It's 2 to 3 hours a week per brand that you're exploring. That's your time commitment for each brand. Show up for those calls. I don't just have one nugget, I got a lot of nuggets. Show up for those calls, treat it like a job. You got to just do it all, so that you can make that fact-based, data-driven, educated decision and leave the emotion out of it.
No, you give 1,000 nuggets of wisdom to these listeners. I don't care. No, I think that's great. I love hearing you say, that be open-minded. I like to say, like, be vulnerable too, and the listeners out there, they've heard me say this before, but I think it's so important to not only come with an open mind, but also open up to you a little bit, like a counselor in a way, but like a counselor about your dreams and about what you want to do, because that's only going to help you as a consultant pair them with a brand that can really provide that excellent opportunity for them. So I think that, if you're listening out there, just be vulnerable, be open-minded, and, take those misconceptions, throw them out the window. We already talked about this.
Yeah, and I would add, actually really important, I think not just be vulnerable, but be honest. No is okay, right? If you decide you don't like something, it is okay to say no. You're not going to hurt my feelings. You're not going to hurt the franchisor's feelings. This is that person. This is your life, your decision, your livelihood. Be okay with no. And I think that that's really important. Because people sometimes they're so uncomfortable saying no, and we're good with it. A good consultant's good with no. A good franchisor is good with no. Keep saying no till you find what's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, you have to be honest with yourself in that sense. Really, I don't shy people away. I tell them where hey, I'm here for the journey as much as you are. Like we're here together to see if this is the best opportunity for you. It absolutely might not be, but I always think it's worth a conversation, right? So no, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. You know, in your opinion, what are some ways that the franchise industry in and of itself has innovated and changed up the game of business ownership?
Ooh, that's a tough question. So I really think that where the franchise industry has changed and kind of become top of the line, it's all those little things that, like, when I started, franchisors didn't have call centers. Franchisors didn't, hey, here's blurbs you can put out on Indeed or LinkedIn or whatever monster to find your right people. They were providing support, but not the support that we're helping with today, right? The fact that that as a franchisee, you can go online and watch video training that's live and that really will walk you through, like, you could have I don't know if y'all have this, but like you could have a climber, here's how you climb the tree, and it could be a video that someone could watch. We didn't have any of that stuff. And the fact that, one thing, thanks to COVID, right? Zoom became huge. And so now everyone's face to face, and now we're all stuck being on Zoom all the time. But that's good because we can see each other, watch the body language, work with customers. It really opened the doors for a lot of people. So I think there's so many innovations in that sense. And then the fact that franchises listen to their franchisees a lot more now than what they used to. And those franchisees bring great ideas to the table. They get rolled out and implemented, and the advisory councils and all those different pieces. I think there's still so much room for growth and change, and I can't wait to see what the next 10 years brings. But I think there's a lot out there.
Yeah, I can say from the franchisor side, that is part of the reason we got into franchising was, hey, we've done this one time, right? Let's do it a bunch of times and have other minded people, other professions, other industries. Let's get people with all kinds of different perspectives, bring them together for one common goal, and then really just achieve greatness through that. So that's a really great piece. I appreciate you for sharing that. You know, what I definitely want to do before we get wrapped up here, and we start talking a little bit about this question that I want to ask you. Before I do that, though, if somebody was out there, Julie, and they want to get into contact with you and talk about, how can they change their lives through becoming a franchise owner, what would be the best way for them to be able to reach out to you?
Oh, thank you. So email would be the probably best way. Julie, Julie, at E as in Edward, G as in George, Fran.com. You can always go to my website, evergreenfranchiseadvisors.com. There's a contact me button, or you can send me a text or give me a call, 480-227-4277.
All right, perfect. And I'll put all that in the episode description, so you don't have to remember it. I'll put it down there too. Well, before we get off here, Julie, I wanted to ask you a quick question. If you were a beverage, whether it be adult beverage or not, what kind of beverage would you be and why?
Okay, I think you know the answer to that. I'd be an iced venti non-fat latte from Starbucks. That is my favorite drink, and that's who I would be.
I love that. And by the way, there's a great story that goes along with that. And if you want to know why me and Julie are laughing, you're going to have to contact Julie and actually ask her about that story, about how we ended up in the middle of Philadelphia at a university coffee center. That was pretty funny. That was a great time. So, hey, Julie, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being on the Franchise Happy Hour. Again, can't thank you enough for all of the support and all of the hard work that you put into this to help people achieve their dreams. So with that being said, I always like to do this. So cheers to you, cheers to me, and cheers to business ownership.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.